So Alhamdulillah, I made hijrah to Indonesia after growing up in the UK, and what I'm going to do in this video is basically share my perspective from someone that's seen both sides, someone that grew up in the UK, someone that then made hijrah. How do they see both sides? And then you can use it to help you make a better decision for your situation, inshallah. So before hijrah, basically, to give you more context, I left the UK at the age of 19, alhamdulillah, as a non-Muslim. So I was not Muslim at the time because I didn't like the way of life in the UK. And the main reasons that go into it was it's generally a culture of not being very ambitious regarding business. The weather is, of course, rubbish. Everybody knows that. It's very expensive. Just to live a very basic life is very expensive. And also misaligned values, which was probably number one, which we'll get into in a bit. So, yeah, then I left. I first spent a few months in Czech Republic in Europe, and then spent about 5 months in Thailand. And basically, what I was seeing within this time, I did also visit around about 20 countries, alhamdulillah, within this time. And what I was seeing was that these misaligned values, they exist not just in the UK, they also exist in Canada, in the US, in Czech Republic, in Thailand, and so on and so forth. I'm seeing these values, it just doesn't align with me. Like, I wasn't Muslim at this point, but things didn't align with how I viewed the world. Things just didn't align with my own personal values. So, yeah, in Thailand, I did eventually become Muslim, alhamdulillah. And shortly after becoming Muslim, I moved to Malaysia for Ramadan. So I was struggling to find halal food in Thailand. Thailand's like a very pork heavy, it's not very Islamic. It was difficult. And that's the main reason I moved. And also it was Ramadan. So I moved to Malaysia, alhamdulillah. I then spent a few months in Malaysia and then also Egypt and Indonesia. Alhamdulillah, I was able to go to these different countries. And what did it make me realize? That I'll never live in a non-Muslim majority country. And I decided on Indonesia. So I'm going to talk about why. Why will I not live in a Muslim majority country anymore? Why will I only live in a Muslim majority country? So yeah, I left the UK, like I mentioned before, even being a Muslim based on the values. And becoming a Muslim, it becomes even more clear. It already was, but it became even more clear to me that Islamic values and Western values are not in line. So I had already discovered my values and Western values is not in line. But clearly, Islamic values and Western values, they're just not in line. So things like alcohol, things like gambling, things like interest, things like zina, which these are things which is completely prohibited within Islam, but unfortunately they are very rampant within the Western world. Zina, if you're a non-Muslim watching, zina is fornication outside of marriage. Attack on the nuclear family as well. This is a big, big thing within the West, the attack on the nuclear family. So now the kids are going straight into school from such a young age because the women are being pushed into the workforce. So not many women are actually able to be at home, actually looking after the family. So many. Like, you look at anyone in the schools now and then their friends are all, their parents, they're separated, they're seeing their father on one day, their mother on the other day, blah, blah, blah. There's no more nuclear family anymore. In so many cases, like, which is a sad thing to see within the West. And it's very much an agenda that's being pushed against the Western families, that the nuclear family is just being completely eroded. Kids sent off to school straight away to learn from people which is not their family, to learn different things than their family think. The family's not there strong together anymore. There's a lot of single mothers and so on and so forth. And that's not just the UK, that is also the majority of the Western world, unfortunately. Individualism as well. So this manifests into so many things, but generally nowadays people are pushed. It's not that the Western people are bad, but rather the agendas pushed towards them is to be more individualistic, non-traditional gender roles. So this was a big thing. I really didn't like the gender roles I was seeing within the West, whereby, you know how it is, you don't need me to explain it. I just don't like that. Atheism. So atheism's a big, big thing. It's pushed within the schools. Like, generally, the people teaching RE, for example, in school, they're just generally going to be an atheist. And obviously, a lot of people, well, seemingly now atheism is the majority in the UK, but people, even if they're Christian, they're not going to like this, that their kids are being taught by atheists. And definitely as Muslims, what's the most important thing as a Muslim is Tawheed, to understand the oneness of Allah, to the belief in Allah. And the belief that Allah is the only one worthy of worship. And when the atheisms are basically atheism, it's not in line, is it? So I didn't like that. I didn't like this LGBT agenda, whether that be what's being pushed in schools, whether that be what you're visibly seeing, whether that be the silencing of anything talking against it, and so on and so forth. It's not It's obviously not in line with Islamic values, and it just wasn't in line with my own personal values. Following one's own desires over the commands of Allah. This is a very big one. Many people deciding that we're going to just follow what do I think is best, what do I want to do. If I want to go and have sex outside of marriage, if I want to drink alcohol, this. Following one's own desires over the commands of Allah. Mocking of religion is common within the West, unfortunately. Kind of this idea that if you're religious, you're stupid, or just like open acts of disrespect towards religion goes on within the West. Versus Muslim majority countries, where almost everyone shares Tawheed. Like, you're around almost everybody understands the oneness of Allah, and they understand that we should submit to Allah. We understand what's right, what's wrong, what should we do, what should we not do. Kids are then raised upon that, alhamdulillah. So some examples. So protection of women. Now, supposedly the West likes to convince people that they somehow protect women by giving all this freedom and so on and so forth. But is that the reality? Generally, no. So in the West, if a man, for example, is abusing a woman on public transport, he's shouting at a woman, or he's even doing violence towards a woman, how many times you've probably seen it yourself, or you've seen it at least on videos, how many times will the men on the bus just head down, they're on the tube, head down, nothing, silent. There could be a man sat next to him, he'll move away because he doesn't want to get hurt, whilst he's seen a woman being shouted at, pushed, so on and so forth. How many times has that happened? Sure, maybe every now and again someone will actually intervene, but how many times do they just head down? Now, whether you're a Muslim or not, you know the vast majority of Muslims would never tolerate that. They would not tolerate a woman being shouted at, being pushed and stuff. And that could be your wife. Your wife's there on public transport, boom, being shouted at, being harassed, and so on and so forth. And the men around head down. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to be hurt. Where would you rather be? Where would you rather be for yourself? Where would you rather be for your family? It became pretty obvious to me. Protection of kids. So most Western families, they don't know what their kids are being taught. So this is the reality, that most of the Western parents, they don't really know what their kids being taught in school. But even if they did find out that the kids are being taught about this LGBT, this atheism, and so on and so forth, how many of the parents would actually go and complain about it, even if they disagree with it? Even if these parents, they really disagree with this thing, how many of them would actually go to the school and say, okay, I'm not going to let my kid go into this class? How many times would that happen? Very, very rarely. Because very often if they was to do so, they'd lose their job. They would lose their job, or they would just be scared to do so. Now, in the Muslim world, would that be tolerated? You know for a fact that wouldn't be tolerated. Almost every single parent, they would, if it ever did happen, which it basically would never happen, but if it did, all the parents would make sure their kid never happens again. They would ensure this absolutely never happens again. So where would you prefer your kids to be? It's pretty obvious, to me at least. So Islam is the norm. So your wife and your daughters, they don't have to feel uncomfortable for being a Muslim. Dressing like a Muslim, you don't have to feel uncomfortable. People looking at you weirdly and so on because you've got a big beard, because you're wearing a thobe, for example. People are looking like, what's that guy doing in a dress over there with a big beard? It's not like that. Your son's being made to feel weird for being a Muslim, which if they're surrounded by non-Muslims, that definitely can be a thing. Your son's being made to feel weird because they're Muslim. Halal food is viewed as some like weird barbaric thing. Like me growing up as a non-Muslim, we used to view this halal food as like this halal slaughter. They're doing some crazy barbaric thing, when the reality is that it's infinitely better, alhamdulillah. Even you're seeing a lot of non-Muslims now starting to eat halal food because it's got a lot less of this sort of weird stuff that they pump into the animals and they kill them into like different weird ways. But yeah, amongst the non-Muslims, many of them do. Like I see it a lot of non-Muslims, they view halal food as like it's some weird thing to be scared of. Like they'll try not to eat the halal food because they think it's a bad thing, let alone like not knowing that they're drinking halal water and eating halal pasta and this. But yeah, you don't want to be around people that make you feel weird for just complete norms. Alhamdulillah, the Muslim lands is the opposite though. It really is the opposite. Islam is the norm. Basically, everyone's a Muslim doing Muslim things. So safety as well. This is a big reason why a lot of non-Muslims even move to Muslim majority countries. In the West, you've got these I'm calling it here ticking time bombs, which inshallah you get the idea of that, but it's like people that are like ready to explode. Now, people, for example, with knives. Now, there's a lot of people that carry around knives. Sure, some people may be like, oh yeah, it's not that bad, but there's a lot of people actually carrying knives. Like there actually is, and whether they use them or not, obviously you see it. Of course, on the news, it's quite often people do use them, but the amount of people that have them there, whereby if the scenario occurred where you've had a big disagreement, this, they are actually willing to use it. Now, this is not a good thing to be around. Drunk people, for example, how much violence does that cause? So much. Drunk people, there's the violence correlation with people drinking and people being drunk is just so high. Now, sure, maybe it's not going to be the worst violence for yourself. Like, you're a man, you've probably lived in the West for all this time, and you're not that bothered, you yourself, if some drunk people start shouting at you and stuff. But imagine that's your wife, imagine that's your kids, and this. It's very different when it's like that. And if it's a big group of drunk people, you're there as a visible Muslim, you know the sentiments that are being pushed by the likes of Tommy Robinson and so on. Violence, very big violence, can come your way. People on drugs, this is very common. You walk through the UK, there's people doing drugs in like any town centre, basically. People coming up to you, this, which again, maybe for yourself it doesn't really matter, but for your family it's just not a nice thing to be around. And even for yourself, it's not nice. You've got a lot of suicidal people, for example. Like, I went back to the UK, I think it was about a week ago, and there was we was just sitting at this coffee shop outside, and in front of us, on the table in front of us, there was just this woman on her own. And we were sitting there for about 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden, two police officers come. They sit next to her. They empty her bag. There's a knife in there. There's pills and all sorts in there. And I'm sitting there with my younger brother, for example, and you're seeing this. Like, you're going out for coffee, and you've got police coming. You've got someone like this. Obviously, it's unfortunate that people are in that situation, but you don't want to be around that all the time. You don't want to be seeing that. Now, of course, that's not a day-to-day occurrence, but these things are common. Like, I went back to the UK for a weekend. You see that. There's many other things as well, which you just don't really have that in the Muslim world. Alhamdulillah, we talk to Allah about our problems. We make dua to Allah to solve our problems. Alhamdulillah. Now, of course, these issues exist amongst Muslims, of course, but it is, of course, more rampant within the West, unfortunately. One, road rage, for example. Now, there's a lot of road rage, not just in the non-Muslim countries, but you've got people do drink alcohol whilst they're driving. They're going to be more likely to have road rage. There's more road rage. There's just facts. There's more road rage. One road rage happens, and then boom, you're in the hospital, you're dead. Like, this happens. Obviously, we're talking more about sort of the more extreme things, which I've got another slide. We're going to talk about the more day-to-day things, but these are things that absolutely happen. Nobody's immune to these things. Arguments. One argument happens, and then boom, you or your family, you could lose your life. It happens. It does happen. But alhamdulillah, these things just are virtually non-existent in the Muslim lands. Like alcohol, you don't see it ever. People aren't doing drugs. There's no pubs. There's no nightclubs. You don't see this stuff. There's no people on drugs. There's far less suicidal people. This knife crime. Like, it's just not really a thing. Alhamdulillah. And then agenda's being pushed. So this is a big one. Again, this is why a lot of non-Muslims leave the Muslim majority countries, but also, of course, this is why a lot of Muslims also leave. So, yeah, not only do you and your family, you're walking around and you see these things, you absolutely do. You go into a town centre and you're going to see these agendas clearly being pushed. You're going to see people who are unfortunately victims of these agendas walking around in all sorts of ways. You're also censored against speaking against it, like the example of before. If you said to your child's school, "I'm not going to let my child come in," okay, I'm not going to change what you're doing, but I'm not going to let my child come into this class of being taught about LGBT, being taught about fornication, so on at a young age, stuff like this. You say you're not going to let your child go in, your job's all of a sudden at risk. Your job's at risk. You're at risk of going to jail, things like this for hate speech and so on, which is why a lot of parents, unfortunately, just go along with it and they let it happen. They let happen what they know is wrong, because of fear of speaking against it. Your taxes are also funding these agendas. You're paying very high tax for it to be put into these agendas, for it to be put into foreign wars which are killing Muslims. Alhamdulillah, in the Muslim lands, your kids are learning what's right and wrong. The kids are learning what should we do, what should we not do, what's Allah told us to do, how to pray, who is Allah, what's the roles of family members. Alhamdulillah, that's what they're learning in the schools in the Muslim majority countries, which to me is much better. Muslim majority countries, of course, they're not perfect. We're going to talk about more the day-to-day things now. So you're not going to go to a Muslim majority country. It completely eliminates absolutely every negative, like immodesty, for example, bad manners, music, and so on and so forth. But overall, it's infinitely better. Like it's not even close. It's just not even close. Alhamdulillah. I've talked, obviously, like I mentioned, I've talked more about sort of the extreme thing, like the really bad things that happen. But we're going to talk about how do things actually change day to day? Like, what do you see every single day visibly differently? So, number one being that there's masjids and prayer rooms every single place you go. Like, you go to the dentist, you go to the mall, you go to the hospital, you're at work, you go on a day trip to wherever, the zoo, this. There's a prayer room in all of them. And many times there'll be a masjid. Like, I was at a hospital about a month ago, and there was a whole established masjid in there. There's about 40 of us that prayed Asr prayer in there. There's an established imam in a hospital, alhamdulillah. And this is literally everywhere you go to, there's going to be a place to pray. And there's also going to be masjids within like 5 minutes walk of everywhere. Like every street you go on, like I'm in Indonesia, there's loads. Most Muslim majority countries is the same. I think Indonesia is probably actually the most, alhamdulillah. But yeah, you've got masjids within like 5 minutes walk of literally everywhere. That means you're getting 27 times the rewards for every single prayer, praying in congregation. You're also getting the rewards, the removal of sins, walking to the masjid, and so on and so forth. Every single prayer, alhamdulillah, you feel so much better when you prayed every prayer in the masjid in congregation compared to you prayed in some little hidden space you made wudu in a public toilet and you're trying to rush the prayer, whatever. In the West, it's just not the same. And there's no tangible thing, but just intangibly you feel the benefits of this so much. And obviously prayer is the most important thing we do day to day. And alhamdulillah, the Muslim majority countries make it easy. You also hear the adhan as well, which is beautiful. Everyone stops, they go to pray. Almost everyone. Halal food everywhere, so you just go on the grocery app or you go to the grocery store, you buy anything. You don't have to be like checking all the labels. Does it have any pig in it? Did they put alcohol in it? Is it haram meat? Generally, it is. In the West, obviously, you just buy anything in the shop. You go to any restaurant, like you don't have to search halal restaurants. You just search restaurants and you go to the restaurant you want to go to because it's all halal, alhamdulillah. Obviously, like if you go to some specific pork restaurant, they still exist, but you're not going to just stumble across that. Alhamdulillah. No awkward having to ask, is this halal? Which items on the menu are halal? And then you're still doubtful because they're still using the same frying pan, for example, as they're using haram meat and halal meat. So even if it's like a halal option, is it really when they're using the same equipment between the haram and the halal? And you've got this doubt. You're having to ask in all places, which unfortunately is the way it is in the West. It's definitely getting better in certain areas, but not having to just check the ingredients on every single thing. Google search, is this item halal, blah, 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 for everything. You just go and you eat. Alhamdulillah, that does so much for you day to day. It's so much better. You greet everyone you see with salam, like you get in a taxi, you go into a shop, assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah, it's so much better. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you. You're having that dua received to you by every single person you greet. It's so much better. You're surrounded by families. Like if you walk around, you're just going to see families. Alhamdulillah, it's so much better. Like it's so much better. So much better. Kids learning in Islamic schools. You've got Islamic schools absolutely everywhere. Playing out with Muslims. There'll be loads of kids. Alhamdulillah, there's a lot more kids in Muslim majority countries. More for your kids to play with. You can walk around as visible Muslims and it's just the norm. People know what you're doing. People don't think, oh, what's this weirdo doing? Alhamdulillah. Any dentist or hospital, whatever, they'll easily accommodate for women only and male only, which is a big thing. Like if your wife's going to go to the hospital or the dentist, whatever, you're not going to want some man doing it. And same for you. You're not going to want some, like obviously a woman touching you and this for the dentist and whatnot. And they're a lot more accommodating for it. If you ask that in the West, are they going to be that accommodating for it when you go to the NHS? There's supposedly free healthcare, and then you've got to wait like 2 months to get an appointment, and then you ask for it to be a man, for example, for you, and then why are you being sexist and so on and so forth. But alhamdulillah, here private healthcare is way cheaper in most Muslim majority countries, and you can also, it's very accommodating because they're Muslim, they understand. no alcohol, no drugs, no gambling, no pubs, no nightclubs. I don't see it ever, which is huge. It's so huge. Alhamdulillah. Obviously, as Muslims, these things is not permissible. So what to do? What to do? You understand? Okay, I want to move to a Muslim majority country. I don't want to live in a non-Muslim majority country anymore. What do? How do you actually make it work? So rather than, which if you're watching this video, most likely you're not the type of person that's just going to book a one-way flight and you're going to leave everything straight away. Otherwise, you would have probably already made hijrah. You're probably more like you want to sort of be a bit more cautious with it. I would recommend not doing that. I would recommend just booking a one-way flight and literally go into the Muslim majority country. Whether you stay in that specific place or not, just have this intention. I'm never going to live in a Muslim majority country. I'm going to go to this place first. If I don't like it, I'm going to go to another Muslim majority place. But if you're in the West right now and you're in a bit more of that cautious way of life, what you can do is book a month, at least a month. You can book 1, 2, 3 months. You can book forever, whatever. Get an Airbnb in a local style house, like not a hotel. Don't stay like a tourist. Stay in a place where people like locals actually live, where you would live long term. Spend time in places you would spend day to day. The grocery shop, the masjid, the park, this. Not these touristy places. Go over there. If you like it, plan to stay. Like you like it. You've gone for a month. You like the place. You've gone back to the West. You start planning to actually move there fully. If you don't like it, you then go back, and then in whenever you next can, you go to another country or another city. Nothing was a majority country or city. Many brothers do this, and then they can never look at the West the same, because I never felt these impacts until I went back to the West. Like I moved, like I mentioned, I moved to Malaysia. I then went back to the West to visit, and then I started noticing things so much more. And then I just went again for the second time, and I just noticed stuff so much more. So a lot of brothers, they do this, and then they look back, and then they just can't look in the West the same. And then they've got that why. They've got a very big why, which then makes hijrah easy, alhamdulillah. So inshallah you can do this, and inshallah it can be a benefit to you.